Close your eyes for just a second. I want you to imagine an endless horizon. We're talking golden grasslands just stretching out as far as the eye can see, shimmering rivers reflecting this immense, beautiful tropical sky, and legendary cattle ranchers guiding their herds right across the plains. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're exploring a sound that has echoed through these majestic landscapes literally for centuries. We're tuning into the rhythmic pulse of Venezuela.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap across the golden grasslands. We'll start with a welcome to the Llanos, then look at a blend of three cultures, uncover the hidden drums of Joropo, check out the instruments of the plains, dive into poetry and dance, and wrap up with a living cultural legacy.
Section 1. Welcome to the Llanos. To really understand this music, we first have to understand the place it comes from. Stretching across central and western Venezuela and reaching way out into eastern Colombia, you'll find these vast tropical plains known as the Llanos, pronounced Llanos. And the incredibly resilient cowboys who call this wild environment home, well, they're the Llaneros, pronounced Llaneros.
And it's exactly here, right among these Llaneros, that we find Joropo, pronounced Joropo. Now, Joropo isn't just a style of music or some regional dance. Not at all. It's the living heartbeat and the core cultural identity of the Venezuelan plains. Originally, the word Joropo actually just meant a festive gathering, but over time it evolved. It grew to represent the music, the dance, and honestly, the resilient spirit of freedom itself. The grueling daily life of the cowboys, their hard work under that blazing tropical sun, the deep bond with their horses, all of that energy gave birth to this profound celebration.
And this brilliantly illustrates the resilience required to live here, where life is shaped by extreme seasons and connected by rivers and horseback trails. During the rainy season, this land transforms into immense wetlands, just absolutely teeming with wildlife, capybaras, herons, jabirus. But then the dry season hits, and it flips into an endless stretch of parched grasslands meant for seasonal cattle drives. Back in the day, families lived many miles apart. In an environment that demanding, music wasn't just entertainment, it was an absolute necessity. It was the essential thread binding the whole community together.
Section 2. A blend of three cultures. Let's move on and see how this builds a rich heritage born from the meeting of three distinct civilizations.
Because, like so much of Latin America's extraordinary cultural heritage, Joropo didn't just emerge in a vacuum. It's a stunning, vibrant fusion of three different worlds colliding. First up, you have the indigenous communities. They contributed a profound connection to the land, their beautiful melodies, and essential instruments like the maracas. Second, Spanish settlers brought over stringed instruments, poetic forms, and dances that eventually adapted to the New World. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, African people, brought to the Americas during the colonial era, contributed one of the most vital, yet often least understood elements of the music, its absolutely unstoppable rhythmic drive. Together, they fused these traditions to create something uniquely, unmistakably Venezuelan.
Section 3. The hidden drums of Joropo. This actually brings us to the most fascinating mystery of this whole explainer.
I want you to think about this for a second. How do you create such complex, driving rhythms without a single traditional drum? It's a great question, right? A lot of folks mistakenly assume that because traditional Joropo doesn't feature large communal African drums, the African influence must be pretty minimal. But musicologists know way better. The rhythms never disappeared. They just found brand new voices. Afro-descended communities brilliantly adapted their rhythmic traditions to the stringed instruments they actually had on hand.
So the crucial point is this concept called hemiola, which generates a constant, energetic motion that pulses just like sub-Saharan African traditions. Think of it like a giant puzzle. Instead of every musician emphasizing the exact same beat, different players perform rhythms that seem to overlap and weave together. So one performer might emphasize a pattern of 3 beats, while another is emphasizing 6/8 notes grouped in a completely different way. These competing rhythmic accents create this conversational, heavily layered rhythm. You might not know the technical term when you hear it, but you'll absolutely feel its excitement.
Section 4. Instruments of the plains. Okay, let's actually meet the specific, authentic instruments that act as the physical voices for those hidden drum rhythms. Now, what's really interesting here is the emphasis on the cuatro, which is the undeniable heartbeat driving the entire ensemble. There's a saying, if the cuatro loses its rhythm, Joropo loses its heartbeat. In this setup, the strings literally become the percussion section.
And make no mistake, the genuine Venezuelan cuatro is not just an ordinary small guitar, not at all. It's a 4-stringed marvel. Skilled musicians create this astonishing rhythmic complexity using rapid strumming combined with sudden palm muting, a technique known as frenato. This produces crisp, percussive accents that sound almost exactly like a snare drum hitting. The player's right hand is a blur. It basically never stops moving. The instrument breathes, it pulses, it literally dances.
Then, alongside the Cuatro, we have the true voice of the plains, the Arpa Llanera, pronounced Arpa Llanera. Now, you have to picture something strictly distinct from those huge orchestral harps you might see in a symphony. The traditional Venezuelan harp is much lighter, brighter, and incredibly agile. Its cascading melodies effortlessly evoke flowing rivers and wide-open skies, and it weaves right around the Cuatro, providing both beautiful, sweeping melody and a really powerful rhythmic drive. Completing that core traditional trio, we have plain, natural, unpainted maracas. Now, while maracas definitely have indigenous origins, Venezuelan musicians have taken them to a whole other level. They use some of the most advanced, insanely precise techniques in the entire world. They aren't just casually shaking them to the beat. Using rapid, snapping flicks of the wrist, players create intricate, completely independent rhythmic patterns with each hand. It turns these simple, natural chords into instruments of extraordinary clockwork precision.
And hey, we definitely have to mention the bandola venezolana as well. This is a pear-shaped string instrument that brings sparkling agility and brilliant improvisation to the mix. What's so beautiful about the bandola, and really the ensemble as a whole, is that no instrument is trying to hog the spotlight. Instead, they engage in this incredibly respectful musical conversation with one another, gliding effortlessly above that deep rhythmic foundation without ever competing.
Section 5. Poetry and Dance. So, we've talked about the instruments in the player's hands. Now let's explore the instruments of the human body. Because Joropo simply isn't complete until the dancers and singers step into the ring.
The dance itself is a breathtaking display of elegance, sheer athleticism, and an incredibly close partnership. The real highlight? It's the zapateo, pronounced zapateo. This is lightning-fast rhythmic footwork where the dancer's feet literally become yet another percussion instrument. Every single step adds another intricate layer of rhythm, perfectly locking in with the cuatro, the harp, and the maracas. It is powerful, yet somehow incredibly graceful at the same time.
And then there is the poetry in motion known as contrapunteo, pronounced contrapunteo. Picture this. Two singers standing face to face. There's no written script, no rehearsed dialogue. It's a completely friendly, unscripted, improvised musical duel. They're firing back and forth, exchanging poetry, humor, storytelling, and clever observations, all while maintaining perfect rhythm and melody. These battles test a singer's memory, their quick wit, and their deep knowledge of rural Llanero life. Honestly, it's absolute art.
Section 6. A living cultural legacy. Let's transition into the modern impact of this sound and see how this living legacy prevents the music from just being frozen in time like an artifact in a museum.
You see, Joropo isn't just one monolithic, unchanging sound. It encompasses some incredibly diverse regional traditions. You've got Joropo Llanero from the plains, the super virtuosic Joropo Tuyero from central Venezuela, and the coastal-influenced Joropo Oriental. And this amazing diversity was carried to the global stage by absolute legends. We're talking key figures like Simón Díaz, whose songs just beautifully captured the wisdom of Llanero life, and Juan Vicente Torrealba, who really elevated the Arpa Llanera to international recognition. They ensured this music reached the whole world.
Which brings us to a crucial question to wrap things up. How exactly does a centuries-old tradition remain the heartbeat of a modern culture? Well, the answer is that Joropo is constantly evolving. Today, you have young musicians experimenting with fresh arrangements and modern performers writing totally new compositions. Yet, through all that innovation, they stay deeply, deeply connected to their roots in the Llanos. The rhythm, the poetry, the partnership, they endure. Every time those strings are struck, Joropo reminds us of the profound resilience and joy of the Venezuelan people.
So, if the rhythms of the past can adapt so perfectly to the instruments of today, what other hidden cultural heartbeats are waiting to be rediscovered in our modern world? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the grasslands. Subscribe to Sphereblend 2, musical traditions, customs, and stories. One world, many sounds.